There's an old Honda Civic that has held its spot in our factory's parking lot for years. Because it looks neglected from the outside, it stands out. Factory workers used to say things like, he probably can't afford a new one about its owner, and I agreed with their view. After some time passed, I got the chance to meet the guy. Over time, we became close, had conversations about finance and so on, and he showed me his portfolio. The man we pitied as poor had a portfolio worth $4 million. He'd bought his house without a mortgage, fully funded his kids' college funds, and had no money worries left. That day, I came to the conclusion that no one but the person themselves can know who actually has money. I didn't learn this lesson from theory. I learned it the hard way at great cost. I founded my textile factory at 26. We grew gradually, step by step. When I turned 28, I received a very serious business offer from a German company. Up until then, I'd never received such a high scope offer. Trusting in the money that would come from the deal we'd make, I felt a kind of illusion take hold. I started thinking, I'm growing bigger now. I should live more luxuriously. I wanted to win people's admiration with more luxurious cars and expensive watches. And I'd say I succeeded at that. Of course, it didn't take long. 2 years later, an unexpected currency crisis hit, and $200,000 of mine suddenly turned to dust. That day was the toughest moment of my life. $200,000 probably wouldn't have ruined me, but it wasn't a small amount either. I couldn't sleep from the stress that night, and I thought it through until morning. That was the day my perspective on the world of finance changed 180 degrees. What do the numbers say? The research called The Millionaire Next Door reveals an important truth to us. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent years meeting with wealthy American business owners and researching their perspectives on finance and their mindsets. Research shows that the average amount an American millionaire pays for a car is around $30,000. Contrary to what you might expect, most don't go for ultra luxury sports cars that the average person couldn't afford anyway. 61% of people earning over $250,000 a month prefer brands like Honda, Toyota, and Ford. For example, one of today's biggest billionaires, Jeff Bezos, drives a Honda. If you're curious about me, I currently drive a Toyota, and I'm quite satisfied with my car. But here's the striking part. On the other side of the survey lies this fact. 8% of people earning less than $100,000 a month drive luxury vehicles. In other words, there are people earning $50,000 who drive $70,000 cars. Genuinely hard to understand. While one group tries to suppress their inner feelings of inadequacy with luxury products, the other group keeps adding to their wealth through sensible investments. Dave Ramsey also has research on this topic. According to Ramsey, Toyota tops the list of vehicles most used by millionaires, followed by Honda in second place and Ford in third. BMW ranks sixth on the list, while Mercedes doesn't appear at all. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord for years. Zuckerberg was spotted in an Acura TSX. Warren Buffett, still in his 90s, lives in the same house he's lived in for years and is still focused on investing. Even though if he spent his money purely on personal pleasures, it might last him the rest of his life, he doesn't do that. So there must be something here we need to understand. Another example. Google co-founder Larry Page was frequently seen in a Toyota Prius. Look, these people aren't just millionaires. They're billionaires known across the entire world. If even these people live like this, do the rest of us, with our modest earnings, really have the right to live a luxurious life? Why do people want to look rich? Over 100 years ago, sociologist Thorstein Veblen researched the concept of conspicuous consumption. His thesis was this: People buy products not just to use them, but to show off. If you've paid attention to luxury brand advertisements, they don't sell products, they sell stories. For example, BMW sells speed, Volvo sells safety, Mercedes sells prestige. This gets etched into people's minds through ads, and people make these kinds of purchases to feel like they belong to that status. Surveys show that people who view money as a symbol of power and success tend to have quite low financial satisfaction and low self-esteem. To impress others and gain their approval, they make purchases that exceed their budgets. And as a result, they end up dealing with financial trouble and debt. The ironic part is that the effort to look rich builds a wall in front of actually becoming rich. Every BMW you lease is a nutrient that could have gone toward growing your portfolio. Every luxury bag you buy is an index fund you didn't buy. Every status symbol is an obstacle in front of your growth. Statistics from the 2025 Empower study show that 62% of millionaires become more disciplined about investing after reaching their first million. They avoid a flashy lifestyle, spend only what they need, and use the rest of the money to keep growing. Looking rich puts a target on your back. I learned the thing I'm about to tell you after moving to Dubai. According to Javelin Research data, identity theft affects about 6% of the population. But among individuals with assets over $1 million, that rate climbs to 8%. A joint study by Experian and the Department of Justice reports that wealthy individuals are 43% more likely to experience identity theft compared to the general population. In other words, the more visible you are, the heavier the burden you have to carry. High net worth individuals are targeted by something called whaling. So what is whaling? It refers to operations that use profiles compiled from social media and data breaches to impersonate private bankers or family members, attempting to extract money through fake transfers. According to FTC reports, people lost about $10 billion to scammers in 2023. $4 billion of that came from wealthy individuals. That's why we should aim to be rich, but not visibly so, because at any moment we could become a target. The social pressure created by visible wealth. We could call Dubai the city of the wealthy. I moved to this city so my network would be made up of these kinds of people. When you go to dinner with friends and they see you driving a luxury car, they assume you'll pick up the bill. When you wear designer clothes, your standing among your coworkers shifts to a different level. When you live in a luxury neighborhood, your surroundings create a constant pull toward higher spending. Research shows that social comparisons exist in relation to status relative to others. In environments with high inequality, signaling status becomes more aggressive. And as the gap between layers widens, the comparisons become more rigid. Social comparison research shows that status is relational. It exists relative to others. In environments with high inequality, status signaling becomes more aggressive. As the distance between tiers grows, comparison intensifies as well. Meanwhile, the man driving the old car loses the chance to expand his network. People treat him as if he has little wealth, and they don't form expectations of him. This social invisibility gives you an advantage, the ability to be authentic in your relationships. Research shows that wealthy people experience this too. The paradox of increasing power and decreasing trust makes it harder to evaluate relationships. You can't be sure whether someone loves you or your money. People who are wealthy but don't show it generally don't run into these kinds of problems. Their friendships turn out to be more genuine, with less self-interest involved. I experienced this countless times in Dubai. If you're a powerful person with a lot of money and you project that outward, people will love you for your achievements. PAW and UAW. Wealth builders versus wealth destroyers. The Millionaire next door developed a framework that separates the rich from the poor. PAWs prodigious accumulators of wealth, those who astonishingly accumulate wealth, UAWs, under accumulators of wealth, those who fall short of accumulating wealth. These categories examine the behavior of two groups of people who think very differently. There can be cases where a janitor earning $50,000 a year ends up building more wealth through sensible investing than a doctor earning $700,000 a year. And the most important reason for this is spending habits. There's a mathematical formula for this. Multiply your age by your pre-tax annual household income, then divide by 10. Someone in their 40s earning $150,000 a year should have a net worth of at least $600,000. If you're below this figure, it means you're not managing to make sensible investments and savings. Generally, people drawn to a luxurious lifestyle struggle with saving and investing. Even highly educated professionals on demanding career paths who understand compound interest theoretically but don't apply it behaviorally. The underlying driver of these people's spending habits is the theory of being superior to your peers. Driving luxury cars and wearing luxury watches sends the signal that they're superior to other people. These financial choices are among the factors that determine whether a person ends up at the top or at the bottom. According to one survey, an American couple smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day for 46 years. The accumulated cost of their cigarettes exceeded the value of their home by $40,000. If they had instead grown their portfolio with that money, they would have achieved growth of over $2 million. Not only did their money go up in smoke, so did their health. Status seeking works similarly. Buying an $80,000 car instead of a $30,000 one corresponds to roughly $270,000 over 25 years at a 7% annual return. That's exactly the cost of looking rich. Cultural programming. The biggest lie Stanley and Danko observed something. If you have money, you're supposed to show it through your spending. Otherwise, you're considered poor. This idea gets quietly planted in our minds. Whether it's TV commercials or influencers' flashy lifestyles on social media, we're exposed to this propaganda in every ad, at every moment. Advertising convinces our minds that purchases will earn us status. The consistent message is, if you want to become rich, you first have to look like them. Someone who has internalized this propaganda spends their entire income on this. And as a result, while wanting to build wealth, they destroy the very money they would need to build it. At 55, when you look at their bank accounts, you find them piled with debt. Those who reject this, on the other hand, quietly keep growing their portfolio. While others destroy their money through consumption, they steadily grow their wealth. By the time they reach 55, thanks to the system they've built and the wealth they've accumulated, they live a peaceful retirement. I came to realize this through the currency crisis that hit when I was 30. The $200,000 I lost that day is what saved me thousands of dollars today. Quiet luxury. The culture is changing too. Bain and Company's 2024 luxury report points to something interesting. Wealthy consumers now place durability and craftsmanship quality above luxury consumption itself. This is why the concept called stealth wealth has become a kind of social currency. A 2024 Accenture study shows that 52% of global buyers prefer influencers who don't flaunt a lavish lifestyle. When the show Succession ended, global searches for Laurel Piana skyrocketed. People found the appeal in a more modest lifestyle. This shift sparked a revolution in fashion trends, an acknowledgement that visible wealth increasingly carries higher costs compared to invisible wealth. The secret weapon at the negotiating table. Just as looking poor has disadvantages, it also has advantages. People treat you according to the position they perceive you to be in. For example, a car dealership treats a customer who drives up in a Honda Civic differently than one who arrives in a Mercedes. There's a Warren Buffett quote I love. Buffett says, because no one knows how rich he is, he's never been overcharged anywhere. Living modestly means escaping both unnecessary spending and people's expectations of you. Marketers adjust prices based on purchasing power. Looking rich invites premium pricing. Looking middle class secures standard pricing for a lifetime. This price gap widens over time and eventually becomes impossible to close. Someone who looks rich is essentially paying a kind of advertising tax. Power dynamics in work life. The dynamics of work life also tend to favor people who appear less wealthy. For example, a boss who thinks you're in a tough financial spot is more likely to hire you, thinking you can't afford to quit because you need the job. Clients who come to you don't feel uncomfortable about your rates because of your modest appearance. The moment you reveal that you have money, the rules change. Your boss starts questioning your loyalty to the company. Clients find you off-putting because you come across as flashy, and your coworkers grow envious of your success. Those who don't reveal their wealth get painted by the people around them as a man who needs the job, while those who do reveal it face the opposite treatment. Family dynamics. When the safety net becomes invisible, I want to mention one of my favorite findings from the Millionaire next door. The children of wealthy people tend to put in less effort on the path to financial independence compared to the children of less wealthy people, perhaps because of the comfort zone they're raised in. Parents giving money to their children once they've reached a certain age is somewhat of a disadvantage. It creates a comfort zone, so the children don't feel the need to work, and it implicitly sends the message, you won't succeed on your own. As a result, the children of wealthy families end up falling behind in the race. I remember the days I scrimped on coffee to save up capital to start my factory. I started the factory with money I'd saved through all that hardship. If I'd failed, all that struggle would have been for nothing. But I had no other choice. I got no support from my family, and the banks wouldn't lend to me. I went through enormous difficulties during that period, but that's where I learned firsthand how to manage cash flow, risks, people, and crisis moments. Because wealthy parents continuously provide financial support to their children, those children don't build their own lives with the confidence of relying on their own efforts. They rely on their parents' assets instead. Families who are wealthy but live like the middle class are a bit more at ease on this front. They provide support to their children strategically rather than under social pressure, so the children move forward confidently, building their own futures without forming expectations from their families. The psychological benefit, a sense of security you never get used to. Not flaunting your wealth in front of others also has incredible psychological benefits. Let me tell you about some of these now. Research on hedonic adaptation says that increases in wealth produce a temporary dopamine spike, which then fades away. For example, you buy a luxury car. At first, it feels incredibly luxurious and special, but after about a month, it becomes just an ordinary possession. Once luxury items take back the dopamine they gave you, you become a person who can't feel satisfied. No matter what you do afterward, you feel unhappy and start searching for happiness elsewhere. Invisible wealth, on the other hand, protects you from this psychological state. Your mind settles into a sense of security you're not used to. You know that if an emergency arises, you have the money to handle it, and you know your future is secure. Which of these two situations you want to be in is entirely up to you. Your decisions can be driven less by fear, and because you have no financial anxieties, you can sleep peacefully at night. Someone who wants to show off their wealth has to buy every newly released product every year, which naturally creates pressure on them. So the race never stops. People who hide their wealth don't feel the need for approval from others, so they don't experience these things. And as a result, their minds are more at ease. Who's free 25 years from now? The key to building wealth is patience. Long-term compounding effects allow the sapling you plant to grow into an ever larger oak tree. Let's assume someone earning $200,000 a year saves 25%. Excluding investment returns, this person saves $50,000 a year. At a 7% return, this amount comes to roughly $3.4 million after 25 years. Now let's consider the other scenario. Someone earning $200,000 a year saves 5% and spends the rest on consumption. This person's savings amount to $10,000 a year, which at a 7% return comes to about $680,000 after 25 years. As you can see, there's a massive gap between the two. But even more important, while the second person appears richer, the reality is the opposite. The first person is actually wealthier, simply without showing their wealth. By the end of year 25, the first person has exactly 5 times more options than the second. And on top of that, because they had no obsession with showing off or seeking approval, they lived a relaxed, stress-free life for those 25 years. The other person lived according to other people's opinions, buying the latest phones and cars every year to show off to people and feeling unhappy whenever they weren't admired. Now, you tell me, which one would you rather be? Final word, success isn't what you display, it's what you preserve. You might see your neighbor's new car and want one just like it. But here's something you need to know. Most people think success means driving luxury cars and living in luxury villas. But I see things differently. To me, real success is freedom. Being able to do work you love instead of a job you hate. Being able to go on vacation whenever you want. Being able to say, I'm not going to work today when you're feeling down. Being able to use your time however you wish. That's what real success means to me. The Honda driving worker I mentioned at the start represents something his coworkers will struggle to understand, because he's chosen to do the things that make him happy instead of seeking approval from the people around him. Those who look down on their old car and want the newest model can never be truly free, because their entire life is built on consumption. Looking poor can be a disadvantage in some respects, but in many areas it brings advantages you can use to your benefit. Because the responsibilities expected of wealthy people aren't expected of you. It teaches you to live without depending on other people's attention, and it provides psychological security without hedonic adaptation. These are just a few examples. As for the disadvantages, some people won't take you seriously. Some will look down on you when you share your opinion. Some will mock you, but you'll keep moving forward without letting any of that bother you, because your goal isn't to please others. It's to please yourself. Your goal is to buy your freedom and live a happy life. As the millionaire who drives a Toyota would say, wealth is about what you preserve, not what you show off. I learned this during the period when I lost a large amount of money in the currency crisis. I hope you learn it sooner than I did. Everything I've shared here comes from my own experience in the world of finance and is not investment advice. When making financial decisions, don't forget to consult a financial professional.